welcome to this learning module on the certification scope for ASI members. In this video, we will start by defining the certification scope. We will see how and where to fill it in the ASI assurance platform, Elemental. We'll list in detail what should be included in it, and we will finish by explaining how to expand your certification scope in the future. When you're done watching this video, you can download the fact sheet that summarizes the most important information. The certification scope is defined by the member and sets out which parts of its business, products and/or facilities will be covered by the ASI certification. The member then shares this and other information with its auditor via Elemental, who will review it and develop an audit plan accordingly. The certification scope description is also published on the ASI certificate, so it communicates the ASI certification to external stakeholders. Each member's certification scope will be different, reflecting their different sizes and activities, the applicable ASI standard, and their certification objectives. Let's start with some guidelines on how to define your certification scope. The certification scope must be defined in Elemental during your self-assessment, the first step of the certification process. Click on Initiate New Self-Assessment to enter the information. This must be filled in English because it will appear on the ASI certificate, which is published in English. The conformance and objective evidence entered for each criteria in the self-assessment can be completed in a different language as long as your auditor speaks this language. You can edit the information afterwards under Self-Assessments, Edit Self-Assessment Details. Let's have a look at all the information you must include in your self-assessment details for the initial certification. Please note that among this information, the entity name, the supply chain activities, and the certification scope description will be published on the certificate. The standard you are seeking certification against, performance or chain of custody, and its version, the contact person for this self-assessment within the company, the assessment name. This field is especially useful for you to easily recognize it when you conduct several certifications, for example. Let's say your company, Super Aluminium, has facilities in Canada and in Iceland, and you seek certification for all your facilities located in Iceland. You could name your assessment Super Aluminium Iceland. The description of self-assessment internal reference. This field allows you to describe your certification scope for your own reference and to share with your auditor. The approach chosen. 3 are possible: the business, the facility, or the product program approach. The business approach is when you seek certification for your whole company or for a whole subsidiary of your company. To take our previous example, this approach would be chosen if Super Aluminium certifies all its activities in both Canada and Iceland at the same time. The facility approach seeks the certification for a single facility or a group of facilities which are a subset of your total facilities. Super Aluminium would here seek certification for 1 or 2 of its facilities in Canada, for example. And the product program approach seeks certification for a single identifiable product or program or a group of products or program. Super Aluminium has 2 main customer sectors, the aircraft industry and the automotive industry. The company can choose a product approach and certify some or all of its production activities for one of these sections. You must also define all the physical sites to be included in the certification scope. These are referred to as business, facility, or product programs. Clicking on a field displays a drop-down list of all previously defined business, facility, or product programs to select from. To add an additional one, please click on the Add button and enter the information for each physical site. Give a name to the facility, reference its location, the address, city, town, and country, and this must be filled in with Latin script. The number of total employees and women employees. The supply chain activities. By clicking on the field, a drop-down list of all the aluminium supply chain activities will be displayed, and you must choose all those that are included in your certification scope. The entity name for the certificate. This is different from the first field, assessment name, because this one is not for internal purpose, but to be published on the ASI certificate if and when the certification is issued. An entity is defined as a business or similar under the control of an ASI member. Note that the name of the entity does not have to be the full name of a legal entity, though of course it can be. Alternatively, you can nominate a name to describe the entity being certified. For example, if the certification scope covers one smelting facility in Alberta, Super Aluminium could choose for its entity name Super Aluminium Alberta Smelting, even if this is not a separate legal entity. The entity certification scope description for certificate is a very important field as it will be published on the ASI certificate as the certification scope. Use this field to describe what business, facilities, or products programs are to be covered by the ASI certification. Do not use generic language that does not have any meaning outside of your company. Instead, make sure you use descriptions that are easily understandable for outside stakeholders. Being as descriptive as possible helps people understand what the ASI certification covers and what the company does. For example, Super Aluminium seeks to certify several of its production facilities implemented in both Canada and Iceland for the automotive industry. A good description of the certification scope description is managing activities conducted at headquarters in Vancouver, Canada, engineering and quality assurance activities conducted at the Reykjavik office in Iceland, smelter and associated pot lines in Alberta, Canada, cast houses in Alberta, Canada, and in Akron, Iceland. Or if Super Aluminium seeks to certify one of its refining facilities, the certification scope is refining facility in Alberta, Canada, including refining facilities, port and administration facilities, residue storage areas, and landfill. You can review more examples of certification scope descriptions by having a look at the summary audit reports of certifications issued on ASI website. Select all the recognized external initiatives and certification schemes that you have already achieved certification against for your certification scope. Expected changes. Tick this box if you expect important changes in your certification scope during the certification period, which is usually 3 years. Examples of expected changes are major changes planned to the operation, planned scope expansions, major expected changes that affect your workers, like a union starting or ending, a shift to a contract workforce, or a project to achieve another certification, etc. You can expand your certification scope through a scope change audit, which can also be combined with a surveillance or recertification audit to include more activities under the same ASI certification. Contact ASI through the Elemental Help Desk to create a new self-assessment for your scope change. You can then update the self-assessment details as we just explained for the initial certification. Most importantly, update the certification scope description for the new certificate. Thank you very much for your attention, and we hope this helped you in defining your certification scope. If this video did not answer one of your questions, you can consult the frequently asked questions in Elemental or contact us through the Elemental Help Desk.